really simple. Something like the adrenaline, same 2 seconds to use. It's a painkiller for only 60 seconds. It increases some of your soft skills for a certain amount of time. It heals you a small amount over time. It takes away energy and hydration over time. Like, there's a lot of things here. ETG, the green ones here, are considered some of the meta ones. Once again, 2-second use time. This is going to heal you for 6.5 HP per second for 60 seconds. So by popping one of these things, if you're really hurt, this can heal you a tremendous amount over a 1 minute period of time. It's not a painkiller. It's basically just there to heal you in an emergency situation. Something like Propofol, which is the yellow one. This is a painkiller that lasts 240 seconds that heals you for 1 HP per second for 300 seconds. So it's healing you for a much smaller amount, but over a much longer period of time. And this is also a painkiller. Certain things like the Zagustin will heal all bleeds and prevent you from getting new bleeds. Certain things like the SJ6 will make you be able to run for a much longer period of time and regain your stamina much faster. The stimulants are a really cool addition to the game. There's a ton of them. They do all sorts of different things. It's definitely worth like checking them out. If you find any of them, double click on them and figure out kind of like what it does, what it's used for. They're pretty expensive. You can sell them for a decent amount to therapists as well. The ones to be aware of are the morphine. You can find these very common and they're very useful. Propofol is considered one of the best painkillers in the game because it's a painkiller and it heals you as well. And then the other one I would say, if you find, definitely want to save, is the mule. The mule, basically what this allows you to do is carry a tremendous amount more weight in raid and still be able to run. Now you're going to start taking damage over a long period of time, but the mule helps you if you've got a bunch of loot and you want to get it out. So if you find one of these, throw that in the secure container because they're really nice. But the stims are really cool. There's a lot of different ones that you can use, and just basically anytime you find one, double click on it, check out what it does, and kind of go from there. The last thing about the medical system is if you die in a raid, you come back to your stash, you come back to your character, and you do not have full health. If you make it to this screen without healing yourself, you'll see that you do not have full health. After you die, as you're clicking through those menus, there's an option to pay therapists to heal you up, heal all your fractures, bring all your limbs back, and heal your HP to full. Or if you don't want to do that, you can come back to your stash and actually just like go over to the health thing and use your meds to do that. I would say it's basically always worth just paying therapists to heal you. I haven't broken down a cost analysis of that, but it's not that expensive, and you're going to be using all your meds and then having to buy more meds anyway, so therapists can heal you. But that is the med system. It is very complicated, like we said, but I hope that that helped kind of break down all of the different things that can happen to you and all of the different healings that you can do to heal yourself. Now, moving on to the next tab is the soft skills. This is going to show you your level, how much XP you need to get to the next level, and all the skills. So this is where kind of some of those RPG mechanics are brought into Escape from Tarkov. You have soft skills that you can level up. Each of these skills brings some sort of benefit to your character. This is a very much so work in progress type of thing. There's only like 5 or 10 of these skills that really matter or do anything. A lot of these are leveled very, very slowly. A lot of the ones that are grayed out are skills that are not in the game yet that will be added. A lot of them have been added over the course of the game. There's a lot of different types of skills. You can go to like physical skills, combat skills, practical skills. These are all broken up. But basically, you level them up. Once you get to level 51 at a specific soft skill, you have maxed out and you get an elite perk. So as we can see, we'll just take endurance as an example. As I level this up, my stamina increases, my jump, how much stamina I consume when I jump decreases, I can hold my breath for longer, and my recovery time to gain my breath back is shorter. So every time I level this up, I get a little bit more bonus in all of those things. We can take a look at something like strength. Strength increases how high you can jump, how much you can carry, how impact your melee swing is, your movement speed, the throw distance of grenades, and how much stamina you use when you're aiming down sights. Every time you level up strength, you get a little bit of benefit for all of those things. So you can kind of go through and check out all of the different benefits. Once I get to 51, you get an elite perk. So for instance, with strength, the elite perk is that certain things on your character basically don't weigh anything. So your character is much lighter. And then the other elite perk is that you have like a 50% chance to get a critical hit when you melee something. Each soft skill has an elite perk. Most of them you will never see. And especially if this is your first wipe, you probably won't get any of your skills to elite. But It's just cool to know. Take a few minutes to kind of go through this. It's not worth spending a ton of time doing this. There's some quests to increase some of these skills. The wiki page, which I'm going to link down below, tells you how to increase these things. Each skill requires different actions to increase them. Strength is moving, traveling distance while you're overweight. Endurance is traveling distance while you're underweight, and all sorts of stuff like that. Metabolism is eating or drinking in raid. The elite skill here is that like dehydration and exhaustion don't affect you nearly as much. These are really cool, but this whole thing is going to be reworked at some point. It's definitely worth knowing, though, especially as you play. You'll learn what skills are kind of the most important. But I'll leave a page down to the wiki if you want to learn about any of these things. The wiki is the best place to figure out what you need to do to increase these skills. Moving over to the map is not a very useful thing. You can purchase maps to different places from therapists, and if you have a map on your person and then you go to the map section while you're in a raid, it does show you the map of, like, this is the resort map. So the shoreline, there's a big health resort, and I just bought the map for the health resort, and it shows you like the room numbers and stuff like that. You can mark certain places and tag certain things, and then you can see. So if you have a quest item, these are not used at all. They're cool. It's kind of cool, but I would say don't use that. There's a website named mapgenie.io. I'm going to link that down below as well. It is the absolute best place, as far as I know, to actually look at a map of the maps to figure out where you are. And then you can filter all sorts of things like quest items, items that you're looking for, locked rooms, loot, secret stashes. Use that. The map tab in Escape from Tarkov is not very useful. The last tab is your tasks tab. And this shows you all of the tasks that you have from the traders. The tasks are like quests. They're all kind of placeholder quests. They've been in the game for a really long time. They're continuing to add more. As you can see, at any given time, I can have... The tasks are the main way that you level up your character, because the tasks give a ton of experience, and they also unlock the ability to purchase new items. And we'll talk about that in a second when we get to the traders. But this is where you can see in and out of raid all of the different tasks that you have. If you have a task to go get something in raid, a specific quest item, and you have that, it will show up here. Certain times you can move quest items from here to like a specific stash and then turn them in later. These two things aren't used very often at all. But basically, this is where in or out of raid, you can take a look at all of your tasks. Operational tasks are daily or weekly tasks that you have, which is a new feature introduced to the game. Every day, once you get to level 5, you'll have 3 different tasks that rotate. You only have 24 hours to complete them. And then you also have a weekly task that you have 7 days to complete, and then that rotates out as well. If you have any of those accepted, they will show up here, and your regular tasks will show up here. So that is a breakdown of all the different tabs that you have on your character screen in Escape from Tarkov. If you go back out to the menu, now you can click on Trading. Now, these are the 8 traders that you have access to. They all sell different goods and provide different quests and all sorts of different stuff. There will be more traders in the future, and some of these traders will actually be physicalized and placed in raids. But right now, we've got this trader menu, and this is where we buy stuff. Now, each of these traders has 4 levels. When you start your character, you only have access to level 1 of all the traders. And as you get up to level 2, level 3, level 4, you get access to better and better and better gear and better barters and stuff like that. And you can always look at everything that they have to offer. You level up these traders by spending money with them, by doing quests with them, and by raising your current levels. So somebody like Skier, I have level 3. I don't have level 4 Skier yet, which means I need to get level 38. I need to have a certain amount of trader rep with him, and I need to have spent a certain amount of money with him. Now, the money spend goes both ways, buying and selling. So what you can do is you can like buy something and sell it right back to him if you haven't had enough money transfer. But that's what that means. There needs to be a certain amount of money that has passed through Skier buying or selling in order to get to that next level. Once all of these things are complete, I will get level 4 Skier, and you can do that. The trader reputation comes from these tasks, like we said. So completing this task gives me 0.05 Skier reputation. Completing this task gives me 0.02 Skier reputation. There are certain instances where completing a quest will give you reputation with one trader and take reputation away. If you read the flavor text, you'll see, doing something is going to piss off another trader, and then your reputation with them is going to be lower. For the most part, though, that's very few and far between. almost every time you complete a quest, it's going to raise your reputation with that specific trader. Now, everything that you can purchase has a certain amount of limit. So like this ammo, he has 105,593 in stock, and all of the players globally that purchase this ammo kind of pull from that, and when it's sold out, it is sold out like this. I cannot buy S&B ammo for the 7.62x54. It is sold out. He's going to refresh his stock in 37 minutes and 50 seconds. Each trader restocks at a different time, and they're trying to do that so people can't just like camp it and buy everything. So that if you see something that's out of stock, that is because they need to restock. Additionally, there are certain things that you have a limit on, even if it's in stock. So for instance, the impact grenades here, no matter how many he has in stock, I can only buy 2 every reset. So I can buy 2 and then I have to wait until he resets to buy more. There's a lot of ammos that are limited like this, so especially when we get to like Peacekeeper. A lot of the higher tier ammos, I can only buy 100 rounds of this ammo, and no matter how many he has in stock, and then I have to wait until it resets. And that's just kind of how it is. You'll see that with a lot of different ammos and a lot of guns and armor. They're trying to limit how many things that we can get per reset. So even if it's in stock, that's why you won't be able to buy some certain times. You can purchase things for money. You can also barter for things. There's a lot of things that you can find in raid that you can, everything like that. All of the traders have barters. All of the traders also, sell things for rubles. Peacekeeper sells things for USD, and Mechanic sells certain things for euros and certain things for rubles. Those are the 3 different currencies that you have. You can see you can get these. Rubles is definitely the primary one. Peacekeeper is really the big guy who sells USD. You're going to need USD to buy anything from him. He sells kind of like your Western stuff, your M4s, your 5.56, a lot of suppressors, night vision, and stuff like that. But rubles is definitely the main currency. Euros is not really used for almost anything at this point in the game. Like we said, each trader has a different focus. Proper is going to be Russian guns, grenades, ammo. Therapist is going to be meds and cases. Skier is going to be a lot of guns, suppressors, still mostly Russian guns, but you also get some like vectors and sniper rifles. Jaeger is going to have a lot of shotguns, sniper rifles, sniper scopes, thermal goggles, stuff like that. Ragman is going to be your armor, clothes, helmets, visors, stuff like that. Chest rigs, that's going to come from Ragman. Mechanic is a lot of like attachments, a lot more guns, a lot of barters. He's kind of like a mixture of Western and Russian guns, but a lot of like barters for a lot of these guns. Some cases, but mostly like a lot of attachments that you're going to need come from Mechanic. And then like we said, Peacekeeper is a lot of the Western US kind of guns and ammo and stuff like that. Fence is the only trader that is kind of weird. Fence, you can sell things to Fence, and then anything that is sold to Fence, you can then purchase. Fence is basically not used at all because anything you can buy from Fence is most likely going to be damaged, or it's going to cost more money than it would be to buy from another trader. Fence is just this like super shady character. He's connected with the scavs in Escape from Tarkov and some weird lore ways that we don't really know. Fence is not really worth buying anything from. However, you can gain an extra reputation with Fence, and we're going to talk about that when we talk about scavs and scav karma. But the level 1 Fence, the regular Fence level, is basically not worth buying anything for because you can't really get quest items that you need. It's I don't know, maybe you can snipe a good deal. Fence used to be a bigger part of the game. Right now, Fence level 1 is not really worth talking about, but he's just kind of the shady character, and you can sell stuff to him, and then other people can buy those things that you sell to him. Now, it seems overwhelming, all of these things that they buy, like compensators, suppressors, optics, random mounts, and stuff like that. It is overwhelming. You'll get it once we talk about flea market and how to get some of these things. You'll kind of see it's very overwhelming at first, all the different ammos, but just take your time. It's just there's no way around taking your time, double clicking on stuff, reading a little bit about it, and you'll figure it out eventually. Now, the other main way to get things is through the flea market. The flea market is the player-driven economy. I can put something up for sale and another player can buy that thing, and then you get it. The flea market is a huge part of the game because it gave basically everybody access to everything, and you can just purchase things from other players, and the prices are just completely determined on how many people want anything at any given time. Things to know about the flea market: you have to be level 15 to access the flea market, so you got to grind up to level 15, and it's what's called a found in raid flea market. So the found in raid mechanic was added, and that's this little check mark right here. Boom. That means that this item was found in raid, and I can sell it on the flea market if I want to. Anything without that item, without that little check mark, I cannot sell on the flea market. Now, found in raid is a very misleading term. Found in raid is anything that spawns in a raid. So if you go into a raid, anything that you grab will be found in raid, except anything that a player brought in. So anything that spawns in the raid, another player coming in, that their items didn't spawn in that raid, so that's not considered found in raid. So if you shoot another player and you take his stuff, it's not going to be found in raid. But anything that you kind of find, trinkets, loose loot, anything on a scav is going to be found in raid. If you die, anything that you have in your secure container that you get to keep loses its found in raid status. So if you find something really expensive, you put it in your secure container and you die and you get back into your stash and you still have that thing and you can still move it out and you can still sell it, but you can't sell it on the flea market. It's lost its found in raid status. You can also craft things in the hideout. We're going to get to the hideout in a little bit. Crafted things are found in raid. Anything you get from a quest item is found in raid. It's a pretty complicated system, but the short and simple answer is if you see this check mark, you can sell it on the flea market. If you don't see this check mark, you cannot sell it on the flea market. Another layer to that is in patch 12.12, the patch we're currently in, they added a bunch of new restrictions to the flea market when it comes to ammo, armor, and guns. So for the most part, the general rule of thumb is if you have an ammo, an armor, or a gun, you cannot sell it on the flea market. It's basically just like this master list of items that you can or can't sell in the flea market. It's very confusing. I don't know why they didn't just do all. So certain guns, certain ammos can be sold on the flea market, but certain ones can't. Just as an example of that, I'll look like the Scar. The Scar is a new gun that was added to the game. The Scar H, which is the heavy version, the 308. When I look at the flea market, the only one I see is the one that's purchasable from Peacekeeper. But if I look at the Scar L, which is the light, the 5.56 version, I can see all sorts of players selling these for 40,000 rubles. So it's weird, but it's just the way it is. This is also going to be a very living thing. So they are going to be constantly changing what can or can't be sold on the flea market. They are making a push so that guns, ammo, and armors can be less and less available. So anything that's not that great, like a low-level armor or ammo, you can probably sell that on the flea market, but all of the high tier, the best stuff in the game can't. So I know that the flea market is a very complicated thing. That's why I'm making this guide. Found in raid items can be sold on the flea market. Even if you have a found in raid like Scar H, like we said, it's just not going to be able to be sold on the flea market. But it's moving towards the flea market being more for barter items, things that you need, like a lot of the random trinkets and stuff that you can pick up in raid that you either need for a quest or a hideout upgrade or something like that. And then a lot of combat related things are going to be more restricted. Now, if we go back to the flea market, we can see that you can put something on the flea market. You can only list 2 different items. So when it says my offers here, 0 out of 2, you can only list 2 different things on the flea market at a time. Every time that you make a successful sale on the flea market, you're passing money through the flea market, you gain reputation here. Once you get to a high enough reputation, you can unlock the ability to unload an additional slot. So now you can list 3 things on the market. Now you can list 4 things on the market. This is something that's getting changed pretty actively as well. It's much, much harder to do that. You have to put tons and tons of money. Like we said, if you're a new player, don't really worry about this for a little bit because you have to sell tens of millions of rubles worth of stuff in order to gain access to it. Like I most likely won't get my 3rd item slot this wipe. That's how brutal it is. So you can effectively sell 2 different things. Now you can sell more than one. So if I wanted to sell these moonshine, I can auto select similar, and when I click it, I'm going to sell both of them, or I can just, click these things. So if I wanted to sell both of these things, I could sell these for, 100,000 rubles, and it's going to cost, it's basically listing 100,000 rubles per. So if I sell both of these, I'll make 200,000 rubles. There's a tax, a fee for putting something up on the flea market. And you can see this if I tried to sell these for 1,000,000 rubles. You can see that that tax would be much, much higher. And that tax is calculated based on what the game thinks the value of an item is. So if you're trying to sell something that normally sells for very cheap and you're trying to sell it for, 1,000,000,000 rubles because you're trying to get your friends to kind of just give you a bunch of money, that most likely if it's a item that normally only costs 100 rubles and you try to list it for 1,000,000, the fee to list that on the flea market will be like 2 million. It comes to there will definitely be a point where it's not worth putting up for money. So you need to be very aware of that. Anything you list on the flea market, you need to be aware of what the fee is. If you want to get an idea for what something is worth, you can always right click on something and do filter by item, and that is going to show you all of the items from cheapest to most expensive, what something is. So now I can kind of get what the value of a moonshine is. So if I wanted to put this up, okay, people are buying this for about 200,000 rubles. I'm going to make 180, 170,000 rubles on this. That's worth it. But certain things are definitely not worth it at all. If I wanted to put this up to trade for something, I could, instead of putting the rubles, I can also list this for USD or Euro. I can click here and I can look up an item. So if I wanted to trade a moonshine for fuel, I can put it up for a fuel, and then I can also put it up for fuel and 10,000 rubles. You've got 3 different things there. That's how you list items on the flea market. Be aware of the fee. You click place offer, it'll go up. It expires in 12 hours. If nobody buys it before it expires, your reputation goes down, and you can lose reputation that way, making it harder to gain additional slots. The flea market also has a bunch of different filters. If you click this little settings cog up here, you can filter by currency, by quantity, by a condition. If you're looking at a gun or an armor, you can remove barter offers, or you can show barter offers. If you're looking to buy something for just money and you don't want to see what people are trying to barter things for, you can do that. You can show items that are expiring, all sorts of different stuff. Display offers from only traders or only players or anybody, because a lot of times something you're looking for, you might not realize that one of the traders sells it. So you're like, oh, I'll just buy it from there. It's cheaper, or it might be cheaper to buy from a player. So you can do all this. You can set these filters. They show up here up at the top. So if I wanted to remove the, barter offers, I can just click that, and now I can see that people are, trying to trade certain keys or certain things for moonshine, and I can, make that purchase if I have that thing that they're looking for. Anything on the flea market needs to be found in raid. So this person wants a marked key. If I have a marked key that I died with or that I took back into a raid, it's no longer found in raid. I can't use it. So I have to have an item that's found in raid in order to barter for something else. So everything going through the flea market needs to be found in raid. Another quick note on the found in raid status thing: if I took this moonshine, put it on my character, and went into a raid with it, maybe I forgot I had it on me or something like that, it loses its found in raid status. So even if I go into a raid and then survive that raid, when I came back out of that raid, this moonshine would no longer be found in raid. I can no longer put that on the flea market. The reason that's important is for keys. If you find a really expensive key and maybe you put it in your key holder and you forget and you go into another raid, that key has lost its found in raid status and you can no longer put that key on the flea market. That's important because certain keys are pretty expensive, up to millions of rubles. So if you find an expensive key and you survive that raid, take it off your person if you want to sell it on the flea market. The other thing to know about found in raid is that if you go into a raid, you find an item. If you extract with that item will be considered a raid unless you get a run through. So in the overall tab, it keeps track of the run through. So run through basically is the game saying that you didn't engage with the game enough to get an extraction. You didn't die, but you extracted that raid without doing enough for it to be considered you surviving. So you have to be in the raid for at least 7 minutes, or you have to get 250 XP. They have changed that before. They may change it again, but the important thing to know is you have to be in the raid for a certain amount of time, or you have to get a certain amount of experience. Now, normally, even just killing a scav, like with a headshot and then looting him, is enough XP to get out, or just stay in the raid for 7 to 10 minutes. That is there to prevent people from going into a raid, finding something, and then immediately extracting and then selling that thing on the flea market. So if you want to keep that found in raid status, you can't get a run through. You have to get a survive, and you get that by staying in the raid or getting XP. The flea market also has a wish list, and the wish list is basically things that you are just like looking at frequently that you can just come and click on. You put something on your wish list by just right clicking on anything and add to wish list. You can double click on it, add to wish list here. My offers shows any of the offers that you currently have up and how much time they have left on them. That's the flea market and the UI around the flea market. It might change. That's how it is right now. Now the flea market, the other big thing about the flea market is it's a great navigational tool. So anything in your stash you can right click on. Like we said, filter by item shows how much fuel costs. So instead of having to go to the flea market and type in fuel, boom, I can see how much that costs. If I do required search, pull up is anything
I know.
people want fuel, like anything that you want to use as payment. Like if somebody wants an ammo case, I can see like what do people want my ammo case for. I can click required search and you can see any barters or anything that people want that for. Once again, this is a lot of times for keys or something like that. Required search isn't used too often, but if you wanted to, if you found something rare and you wanted to see, if you found something really rare and you wanted to see what people are willing to trade for your item, you can click required search, and a lot of times it's going to be barter, so get rid of that barter, and then you can kind of see what people are willing to trade for it. This is a barter.
Man, it happens, right?
The other really important thing is linked search. Now, this happens a lot when it comes to weapons. So if I right-click and click linked search on this P90, anything that can attach to that P90 is now shown.
What up in chat? Want to play Apex? Not right now. I'm kind of burnt out on Apex.
On the flea market that
I'd be burnt.
to this P90, the different ammos that it can use, the different gun parts that you can use, the different magazines that you can use, the different suppressors that you can use, all come from a linked search. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit when we talk about weapons and gun modifications, but the linked search is the kind of the best way. If you have a suppressor and you don't know what gun it goes to, if you have a scope and you don't know what it attaches to, you can right click on it, linked search, and now you're seeing all of the things that can attach to that item that you linked searched. So that is the rundown of the flea market. Everything is complicated. Everything kind of attaches to other things. We'll reference this more later, but that is the flea market as it stands right now in Tarkov. Now, if we go back again, we've gone over character, trading. We'll go to the hideout. So the hideout is basically like where your PMC lives in between raids. You start out, this hideout is dingy, it's nothing, and all of these modules you can upgrade, and all of these modules provide different benefits to your PMC. There are plenty of guides on the hideout. We don't want to go through every single one of these things because that just is going to take way too much time. But suffice it to say, it is a huge money sink that eventually is a huge passive income stream. So leveling up your hideout is very expensive. Like we said, there's all sorts of modules. Most of the modules have 3 different levels. Each of the different levels cost different things. So just kind of to show you, I can craft things at the Intel Center. My Intel Center is level 2. If I wanted to get to level 3, I have to have all of these things. There are certain level requirements sometimes, and then I can upgrade this to level 3, and it would take a certain amount of time to upgrade. Now, the hideout, you can do a bunch of different things. So it's very, very costly, tens and tens of millions of rubles to get all of your hideout all the way up to level 3. But it provides a ton of different benefits to you. Like we said, certain things can be craftable. And like we said earlier, anything you craft ends up being found in raid. So if you need something for a quest, or if something that you can craft costs a lot of money, you can craft that and then sell it on the flea market. I crafted some ripstop here. If I get this, I go back to my character. That ripstop is here. I can then sell this on the flea market if I want to, or use this to barter for other things. Either way. There's a lot of really good crafts. At the workbench, you can craft a bunch of different ammos. A lot of those ammos are really high tier ammos, so this is a way to get some of the best stuff in the game. You can craft things that you then use for barters. You can craft just really expensive things that other people need that you can then sell on the flea market. In addition to crafting, there's like a passive income stream in the form of a Bitcoin farm.
On the couch.
Once you get your Bitcoin farm, you literally load it up with graphics cards. The more graphics cards you have in, the faster you mine a Bitcoin. When you get the Bitcoin, you can sell the Bitcoin.
Can't believe what I'm listening to with this game.
300,000 and 400,000 rubles to therapists, or you can also use them to barter. It's kind of funny, but like this is a very legitimate passive income stream. Once you get the Bitcoin farm up and running and filled with GPUs, over the course of a wipe, you can make tens of millions of rubles from the Bitcoin farm. Certain things in the hideout also provide benefits to your PMC other than just like the ability to craft or money. So the Intel Center right now at level 2 means my scav cooldown timer is lower, which we'll talk about in a minute. The money I get from quests is increased by 16%, and the amount of time it takes for me to get my insurance back is reduced by 20%. We're going to talk about insurance in a second as well. There are also certain things that allow you to level skills faster. Once I get to the point where I upgrade the library, my practical skills, those soft skills we talked about earlier, level 30% quicker. The library also provides 15% additional XP from all of everything you do in raid, which is going to give you a ton of extra XP over the course of a wipe. So the hideout provides all sorts of benefits in the form of being able to craft things. being able to make money passively and in actual direct benefits to your PMC and to your scav, which we'll talk about in a minute. The hideout is run by your generator, and your generator needs fuel in order to function. So the fuel, you've got the blue ones and the metal ones. The metal ones have more fuel in them. It shows you how many hours your generator is going to run.
Oh, I didn't realize this guy's got a sniper on him right now.
Once it's empty, you can just take out the empty ones and put in a new one. You can buy these on the flea market. You can also find these in raid. But if your generator like 5 to 10 times longer to craft, except the lavatory, which is kind of weird. But anything else, any of your crafts, any of your Bitcoin farm, you need the generator on in order to craft these things or to be generating Bitcoin. The other like random kind of cool thing is the scav case. Once you build this, you can give the scavs either a certain amount of money or certain items, and then after like a certain amount of time, they just bring back a random group of items for you. It's basically like Tarkov gambling, where you sacrifice either an expensive item or 50,000 rubles or 100,000 rubles or whatever it is. They kind of tinker with it every once in a while. And sometimes you can get really expensive keys, you can get really expensive items, you can get items you need for your quest. Sometimes they come back with a few bullets and that's it, and you lose your money. It's kind of a cool mini game, and a lot of people get a lot of really cool stuff from the scav case. That's the hideout. A huge money sink at the beginning, but it is definitely worth it. It's a great way to make passive money eventually, and there's just a lot of benefits to your character. Right now, because there's a holiday event going on, there's a Christmas tree where you can craft certain things. This will not be around most of the time, so kind of ignore the Christmas tree. But that is the hideout, the quick rundown. There are a lot of guides to deep dive into the hideout if you want to take a look at those. All right, so we've talked about the character, we've talked about the trader and the flea market, we've talked about the hideout. Before you go into a raid, there's still a lot you need to know about your gear, how it works, and how your PMC handles it. So first we can start with guns. Escape from Tarkov has the most in-depth weapon customization system of all time. We saw in the traders all the different things. Every single, the optics, the barrels, the suppressors, the tactical devices, the butt stocks, all the sorts of guns can be broken down literally to every single individual component. This is going to take a long time to understand. You don't have to worry about it too much at the beginning because it's and stuff like that, but it can be when you're trying to put optics or something like that. It's just going to take a while. There's no way we can go through everything here. There's a few things to know that make things easier though. If you have an item that's compatible with a gun and you double click on it, it has this little compatible with available. So this means if I found this suppressor in raid, if there's any guns in my stash that this suppressor is ready to be attached to, when I hover over compatible with, it's going to show me that. Oh, so this suppressor is compatible with my P90. Boom, I can put that on there. This AK handguard, if I hover over this, these are all of the different guns that this handguard will attach to. So that's one way to help. Another way to help is if you right click on something and click modding, the modding screen here is going to show you, everything that can get attached to everything. And the modding screen is only referencing what you have in your stash. So if I wanted to put a different optic on it, when I click that, it's showing me in my stash the Monstrum optic I can put on and the thermal optic I can put on. If I go over here to my other place where I can put a tac device, it's showing me, oh, you've got a rangefinder that can fit there. So this helps to see if you have any attachments, any suppressors, optics, or anything in your stash, like lying around, that is going to fit. This is a good place for that. The other best place to learn about the modding system is edit presets. You can save presets, build them that way. And two, instead of just referencing what you have in your stash, it's referencing everything that you've examined, everything that you've seen in Tarkov. So now when I click on the optic, it's showing me all the optics, all the mounts, all the tactical devices that can fit here. Now when I click on the flashlight, it's showing me all of the flashlights and tactical devices that can fit. When I click on the barrel, it's showing the short barrel that I have and the longer barrel that fits the P90. The edit preset system is a great way to learn what fits and how you can do that. You can use this system if you click on the little info thing and you can drag that around. It shows you the stats of the gun. This is a great way to mess with other builds and put all sorts of different stuff on, and you haven't bought any of this at this point. So I can do this and that, switch everything up. I can take a look at the stats, see if that's better or worse. When you've modified a gun, you can click save and just save it as a preset that you want. And then you can recall that later. You can save it and name it something. Or if you don't want to save it as a preset, but you just wanted to throw a certain optic on, when you've made all your changes, you can click assemble, and it's going to say, hey, you don't have these items in your stash to assemble. You say, okay, I want to buy them. It's going to show you that you can buy them from a trader. This is a great example because this Vortex optic I can't buy from a trader yet. So I can just purchase this, or if I want to see if there's any on the flea market, I X out owner type traders. Now it's showing me I can buy that on from a trader or this on the flea market, but none of these are either available on the flea market or there's a restriction, so I can't sell these on the flea market. So I just can't put that optic on unless I find it in raid. I can purchase this, and then when you hit escape, you'll come back here and you can click assemble again, and it's going to assemble the thing. So the edit preset system is a great way to learn, build new guns and new builds, and create presets if you want to have specific presets for your guns. Honestly, like we talked about in the flea market, the best method is to right click on something and click linked search. Linked search is showing you everything that fits on this P90. All the different ammo that fits, all the different barrels, receivers, all the different magazines, stocks, chassis, all that stuff. You can kind of expand all this out and learn a lot about what it is to your gun, what muzzle and then what suppressors, and you can kind of just like keep going with a lot of this stuff. If I click on this PP19 and click link search, and then I can come down and see some of these muzzle devices, the adapters. It's like, okay, well, what does this adapter do? Now I link search this. What's on the other end of this adapter? Well, you can put all sorts of these things on that adapter. You can put these suppressors on that adapter. You can kind of just like keep going in waves and waves and waves and waves and waves and learn about the gun modding system. Now, any gun in the game, if you double click on it, it's going to show you all of the different stats. This can be pretty overwhelming as well. We'll go through them really quickly. Weapon mastery, the more you use a gun, the better you can master it. This isn't really utilized too much. Ergonomics, this is affecting how quickly you aim down sights and how much stamina you're burning while you're aiming down sights. You've got accuracy, sighting range, vertical recoil, horizontal recoil. These are really important ones. Pretty self-explanatory. How much the gun is going to go up or side to side when shooting. You want these numbers as low as possible. All sorts of attachments are going to affect these numbers. This is kind of a live thing. So if I take the suppressor off, it's going to increase vertical recoil by 5, and you can see all that kind of stuff. Put the suppressor back on. Muzzle velocity, how fast it's going to shoot. It shows you if it's single burst, full auto, the caliber, the fire rate, the effectiveness, all of the notifications that you have on. You can move these around if you want the flashlight in a different spot. Double clicking something is kind of shows you all of the different stats. You want to get these stats as good as you can. You want ergo up, you want recoil down. Effectively, those are the most important things. It also shows you how heavy it is. The weight system will come into play in a little bit. Also, it shows you some of these other things like the ability to do the required search, the link search, and stuff like that from here. And it also shows you the durability. The durability is important. So this is 99.7. Every gun starts at 100. If you buy a brand new gun or find one in raid, except for guns on scavs, we'll talk about that in a little bit. As you use a gun, the durability goes down, and then you can repair it. So I think this MCX, okay, so 94 out of 100. If I right click, if I click repair, you can repair it. You can repair it with skier or mechanic. It basically costs more money for skier and even more for mechanic, but they do a better job at repairing. Boom, I want to repair with mechanic. 3,500 rubles. Now this is at 99.3 as opposed to wherever it was. You want to repair your guns because the guns can now malfunction. So anything below 93% durability, your gun now has a chance to malfunction. There's a bunch of different malfunctions. It cannot malfunction because the magazine didn't put another bullet in or the bullet didn't eject properly. If you get a malfunction, you have to hit L to inspect the gun and see what the malfunction is, and then Shift T to clear the malfunction. That's a pretty brutal thing to happen in the game in the middle of a firefight, so you don't want it to malfunction. Anything above 93%, not going to malfunction. Anything below 93%, it's not going to malfunction frequently. Obviously, the lower you go, the more it'll malfunction, but you have that RNG chance of it being there, of your gun potentially malfunctioning. The only exception to this is going to be overheating. No matter what your durability of your gun is, if you overheat it, you are going to malfunction anyway. All of these things, when you double click on them, every single item in the game is going to have all sorts of stats, and you can see things like heat, the durability burn. So adding a suppressor makes my gun the durability go down quicker. It also increases the amount of heat that's generated by my gun. It reduces the recoil. It makes my gun quieter. All these kind of things. Once again, pretty overwhelming. You'll learn as you go, but your gun firing it at full auto too quickly, and you're just dumping rounds. Basically, as the gun overheats, you start to lose durability much quicker, and the maximum durability much quicker, and then eventually you will just malfunction no matter what. So Keep the durability of your guns as high as possible. Every time you repair it, like this shows 99.7 out of 100, you can never get your gun back to 100. Every time you repair it, the maximum durability goes down a little bit. If your gun is overheated, your maximum durability goes down really, really quickly. So it's just something to be aware of. You know, right-click, repair as often as you can to keep your guns in tip-top shape. Other than that, though, every single attachment in the game, every single thing is going to have some sort of stats on it, ergonomics, recoil, if it cools the gun, if it heats the gun, if it increases or decreases any number of things. Just double-click on stuff. Look at it. It's an overwhelming amount of things. You don't need to worry about it too much. This is when you really get into the nitty-gritty, but it's pretty self-explanatory. You can learn as you go just by double-clicking stuff in the game. So now we'll talk about armor. So armor protects you in Escape from Tarkov, obviously. Now, when you double-click on an armor, it's going to show you a lot of stuff. Once again, pretty self-explanatory. The armor class, and then there's all sorts of statistics on like the negative effects. It actually changes your movement speed, your turning speed, your ergonomics. That actually does affect how quickly you can move and turn. So it's almost like your mouse sensitivity has changed. So definitely something to be aware of for the heavier armors. It's going to show you what area of your body that it's protecting. This is just the thorax. So going back to the health, it is only protecting my thorax. This armor right here, it is not protecting my stomach or my arms. Certain armors protect a little bit of everything, like this Gen 4. It protects my stomach, my thorax, and my arms. When something protects your arm, it protects it all the way down to your fingertips. So even though it's only going to cover my shoulders, this is protecting my arm in that area. But that means if my arm is getting shot, my armor is getting damaged. Whereas if I have something like this and my arm gets shot, I can always fix up my arm and my armor is still protected. So something like this, kind of like in the real world, where something that protects your vital organs, your thorax, your head, that's what's vital. Everything else can kind of be fixed. You can kind of decide, you know, which one you like to use. But armors can be repaired and they have a durability just like guns. So the more you repair it, the lower that max durability is. With armors, it's much more significant in the sense of the more you repair something, the less effective it is, and that is really important to know. I don't want to get all the way down into the nitty-gritty. I have done a video that I will link below explaining armor durability. It is very complicated. It is affected by the material it is made out of, ultra high molecular weight polyethylene. There are other things that are made out of other stuff like armored steel or all sorts of other things in the game. It's affected by that. It's affected by what it was shot by, all sorts of different stuff, who you repair it through. But the lower the durability, the less effective it is. So once it gets down to like somewhere in the 50 to 75% of what it originally was, probably sell it and get a new armor. Now, there's different classes of armors, starting with 1 and going up to 6. That's a class 4. There's something like the hex grid or the slick plates that are class 6. 6 is the highest. You can get armor really early on, like P.A.C.As and stuff like that are level 2. Early in the game, 2, 3, and 4 are going to be the most common, and in the late game, you'll start to see more 5s and 6s. Classics armors are going to be much, much harder to come by this way, but just know the durability is important. Check out what it protects and what the armor class is, and that kind of gives you a general understanding. Now, there's armored rigs, like we see here, this TV-110 and the one that I have on, and there's just armor. So you need a tactical rig in order to carry your gear, your meds, your magazines, and stuff like that. There are certain armors that sit right there in your body armor, and then you can put on a rig and keep your magazines and stuff in here. And then there are certain armored rigs where you just put this on, and it is a rig that also has armor plates in it. This is going to be what most things are moving forward, because there's all sorts of customizable armor rig plates that are playing in the future, but you'll see a lot of both. The TV-110 is also an armored rig as well. There's no difference. A class 4 armor is just going to be a class 4 armor, but some of them are rigs as well. Now, the durability of the armor matters. So these are all class 4 armors. This one has a max durability of 40, and the trooper here has a max durability of 85. So the trooper is going to be more effective. Once again, complicated. Check out the armor video, but just things to be aware of, that not all class 4 armors are created equal, but it's just check what the durability is. You want it as close to max as possible. Now, helmets basically go along the same route, where it's going to show you exactly what it's protecting. Nape would be back of your head, top would be top of your head, and they follow the same thing with the armor class. They can be repaired. The additional thing here is a ricochet chance. A high ricochet chance is very beneficial. When you get a ricochet, whether it's low, medium, or high chance, the high is just going to do it more often than helmets with low ricochet chance. when you get a ricochet, that means that any round in the game, no matter how much damage or pen, just ricochets off your helmet. So a ricochet is really, really good, because if you get a ricochet, no matter how good that ammo is, it just bounces off your helmet. That helmet has saved your life. So when we talk about ammo, we'll talk about how the armor classes come into play, but the ricochet chance basically the ricochet chance kind of trumps your armor class. No matter what armor class it is, if you get a ricochet, if you proc one, boom, you've just ricocheted that round, and you're going to lose a tiny little bit of health to your head, but that ricochet will have saved you. There are some really cheap helmets that are like lower level that have high ricochet chances, and then some more expensive ones as well. But helmets and armor all kind of work the same way. There are certain helmets that have face masks on them that you can use, like the Alton. This is a class 5 helmet with a class 5 face shield that covers the top of my head, my nape, my ears, my eyes, and the jaws. Those are all different hitboxes you can get shot at. So you can be wearing a helmet and get shot in the face, and that helmet doesn't help you. You can be shot in the ears by certain helmets, like this obviously goes over your ears, and then there are other helmets like this that cover your ears, and you can always check top nape, ears. And you can absolutely be killed in the ears with a helmet like this. You know, you don't worry too much about it, but it's important to know that you need to actually check what your helmet, what your armor is protecting, and then know that you can get killed in any of the other areas. Now, when we're talking about armor, the next most important thing to talk about is going to be the ammunition in the game. So as you pick up the ammunition, obviously, if you double click on it, it's going to show you what caliber it is, and that's going to tell you what gun that you can use it with. Confusing if you're new to the game. Lots of different calibers. You just kind of give yourself some time. 7.62 by 39, and then you know, if I was to find a gun like the Mark 47 here, 7.62 by 39, that means I can put this ammo in that gun. You'll learn over time. Each caliber has many different rounds that you can use with it. So the BP and the PS, these are the same caliber. They fit in the gun, but they have different properties. So we can double click on PS and BP here, and it shows us a little bit, but unfortunately it doesn't show us everything. So it shows us the durability burn, the chance it has to cause a malfunction, how much heat is going to generate in the gun, the misfire chance, the bullet velocity. All this stuff is kind of cool. Velocity is good to know if you're sniping, you want a bullet that has a faster velocity. But this doesn't give us, the game doesn't give us the most important information here, which is how much damage this bullet actually does. And for that, unfortunately, we need another tool, and the Escape from Tarkov wiki is a great place for this. So I'll have a link to the wiki down in the description below. You can use the wiki for everything. Quest items, you can use the wiki to look up just about anything in the game. But when we're talking about ammo here, those same things that we saw, the BP and the PS rounds, we can see a lot more stuff, a lot more properties to the round. And the most important things here are going to be damage and penetration power. So the damage is how much flesh damage is going to be done. Like we said, the arm has 60 health. If you get shot in the arm with BP, it's only going to have 2 HP left. If you get shot in the arm with PS, it's going to have 3 HP left. So this is very important, because this is going to show you how quick you can kill an enemy, especially because the thorax and the head are the 2 places where if you shoot them, they die. However, if they have armor on, you need to know if that round is a good enough round to penetrate that armor, and that's where that penetration value comes in. We're going to come back and talk about this once we get into the game. Armor damage is another thing, at how effective it is at destroying armor, not just if it's going to pen. If it has an accuracy buff or nerf, if it has a recoil buff or nerf, the chance it has to fragment. A fragmented round is basically like a critical hit, and it's going to do additional damage. The ricochet chance of that round, the percent chance it's going to give a bleed or not, the speed, and all sorts of stuff like this. It's confusing. It's a lot. Once again, overwhelming. The 2 things, the most important things, are damage and pen. And we'll go back to the game and kind of talk about this. So I would also highly recommend you download the app called Battle Buddy, which was made by a content creator named Veritas. It's an app on your phone that shows you all of this information, and it's really iOS and Android. It's a really useful tool. I'm still constantly referencing it to figure out the damage and pen of certain rounds. Anyways, when we're talking about if a round is going to penetrate, the general rule of thumb, use the wiki, use Battle Buddy. You can run all sorts of simulations. If a round has 40 pen, it's going to penetrate class 4 armor pretty decently. Anything 40 or above. So if it's class 2 armor, anything with 20 or above penetration is going to pen that armor fairly regularly. Class 3 armor, 30 pen, 4 armor, 40 pen, 5, 50, 6, 60. So that's why the higher tier armors are so coveted, because the ammo that has 50 plus or 60 plus pen is much, much rarer. So you're going to be able to tank more of those shots. Now, like we said, as the durability of the armor decreases, now the percent chance that that round is going to pen increases. So if somebody has a class 6 armor and I have this round here, which has 47 pen, it only takes 3 or 4 shots before I'm basically penetrating that armor every time, because I've destroyed the armor. In general, armor in this game is not there to tank 10, 20, 30 shots. It is there to tank 2 or 3 shots and give you the ability to get to a new place. A lot of people put way too much faith in armor and helmets in Escape from Tarkov. It is not there to tank a bunch of shots. If you had a round that only has like 11 pen and you've got class 6 armor, yes, there are some instances where you can shoot somebody like 20 or 30 times and they won't die, but that is rare. This round right here has over 30 pen. You can purchase this day 1 of your character from Prapper, and this will go through the best armor in the game in like 5 or 6, maybe 7 shots. So if you have a 30 round magazine and a full auto gun and you catch a guy off guard, you can absolutely destroy them. This round will go through most helmets and face shields in 1 to 2 rounds. So if you get a good headshot on somebody, no matter how much of a Chad they are, if they have the best of the best, you're going to kill them. So those are really important things to know when you're talking about armor. You want to know what the armor class is, and you want the durability as high as you can be. When you're looking at ammo, you want to know what the damage is and what the pen is to give you an understanding of, if you're going against somebody with really high tier stuff, what you can do. You can kill just about anybody in this game with just about any ammo. Headshots are devastating. Always aim for the head if possible. It's complicated. You know, you'll learn as you go, but that's what you need to know about ammo and armor in Escape from Tarkov. Now, the way your gear is laid out in this game is also actually really important, and we'll try and go through this really, really quickly. So, you've got your tactical rig, you've got your pockets, and you've got your backpack. Anything you're in your backpack is inaccessible to your player while you're in the game, unless you press tab and go into your inventory, and then you can kind of move this around. So if you have your grenades and all of your magazines in your backpack, and you go into a raid and you shoot all the bullets out of your magazine and you click R to reload, you are not going to reload. It is inaccessible. It has to be either in your pockets or on your tactical rig. There are some like pistols with magazines that you can fit in your pockets, so you don't always need a rig, but in general, you're always going to need some sort of tactical rig. When you are reloading, it is going to reload in order. Most of the time, there are some bugged rigs, but for the most time, right to left, top to bottom. So it's going to reload to this magazine first, then this one, then this one, then this one. Now, the exception to that is it's always going to want to reload to the magazine with the most ammo. So if I have this 24 out of 50 magazine, if I reload, it's going to take this one and put this one. Now, you'll see what happened there was basically an exact simulation of what's going to happen in raid. If I don't have a space to put the magazine that's in my gun, I can't reload my gun. What's going to happen is, instead of putting that magazine in my backpack like it did right now in my stash, what it's going to do is I'm going to drop that.
gosh.
That magazine. So if you're in a raid and you don't have a place in your stash to put that magazine that you're taking out of your gun, he will actually drop it on the floor. You will be able to go back and pick it up, but he will drop it on the floor and then reload your gun. So you need to make sure that you've got your magazines, laid out. He's always going to choose the one with the most ammo in it, but you need to keep whatever your magazine. If it's 2 cells, you need to keep 2 cells open. If it's 1, you need to keep 1. Some magazines like drum mags are 4 cells. You need to make sure that your tactical rig has a space to put the magazine so you don't drop it. You also need to make sure you manage your ammunition well. Like this magazine has 24 rounds out of 50. If I shot all the rounds in all of my other magazines, I would end up reloading back to this with only 24 rounds in it. It's not going to go back to 50. So what you can often find yourself is after a few fights, all of your mags have some ammo in them, but none of them are full. You need to bring extra ammo. A lot of people bring it in their secure container here, and then in the raid you will manually repack that ammo so that you can get a round up to full. Certain mags go slower or quicker. BP90 mags go very slow. When you're out of a raid, preparing for a raid, this load ammo function here is really, really nice. You can just come down here. It's going to show you all the ammo that you have that's compatible with that gun, and I can just load it up, top it off, and then I'll be good to go. Server's a little laggy right now, but you can top them off and you'll be good to go. So you need to make sure you're bringing extra ammo. You need to make sure you're bringing enough magazines, and you need to make sure that your magazines are laid out so when you reload, you don't lose them. Now, there's other equipment that you need to take mind of where it's placed as well, like your meds. Once again, if your meds are in your backpack, you cannot use them. They need to be either in your pockets or on your tactical rig. You can bind them to whatever number you want by either dragging them down here, or if you just hover over something and then press the number 6. I like keeping my hemostats on 6. Boom, you can do that. Grenades are always you're going to use the grenade now kind of randomly. So if you've got a few different types of grenades, I've got, a flashbang here and a frag grenade. If I'm in the raid and I just press G, I'm going to pull a random grenade out, and then you need to either press left click or right click overhand, right click underhand throws it. If you want to pull out a very specific grenade, you need to either only have 1 in your pockets or rig, or you can bind this as well to any one of those numbers, but you can bind it to 7, and then pressing 7 pulls out that specific grenade. So all this stuff, magazines, meds, grenades, you need to be aware of where they're placed in your pockets and in your tactical rig to make sure that you're getting the most out of them. The other thing you need to be aware of before you hop into a raid is your weight. Now I'm going to move my camera over there so you can see the weight down here. Now there's 3 thresholds of weight. There's green, yellow, and red. Any weight that you are where you're in the green, you're underweight. You're going to be leveling endurance, not strength, and you're basically just normal. That's your normal status. When you cross over to yellow, which is at a different point for each player because that's based on your strength level. It obviously starts the same for every player, but as you level up your strength, you can carry more without crossing over into the yellow. When you're in your yellow, you're overweight. Now you're going to be leveling your strength skill, and when you're overweight, it's going to be harder for you to gain your stamina back. Your movement speed is going to be a little bit slower, and this scales up. So if you've just crossed over into yellow, you won't notice it that much. As you put on more and more weight, you wouldn't be carrying around ammo boxes full of ammo, but just to show, as you get up into like the higher, like 40, 50, 60 kilos, at this point, I'm still in the yellow, but it's going to be very hard for me to move. I'm going to move very, very slowly, and I'm going to be regaining my stamina at a really, really slow rate. Additionally, you start to get to a point where you can't regain stamina while you're walking. You have to stand completely still, which is very annoying while in your raid as well. And then the final threshold is once you cross over into red, you are basically completely immobile. Like, you can't sprint at that point. You're going to need to ditch your backpack, get all that weight off you to get your stamina back. When you're in the red, you are borderline immobile. You walk very, very, very slowly, and even just the act of walking is now going to reduce your stamina, and it's going to greatly reduce your stamina. So going back to what we said earlier, those mule stims are nice. If you got a lot of gear you want to get out, you can pop one of those. But Be very aware of the weight of your character. A lot of times you can go into a raid overweight. If you want to bring a sniper rifle and a submachine gun or do something like that, you can be overweight. As soon as you start picking up other people's gear, you're going to be overweight. That is something to be aware of as well. And as you get heavier, the inertia mechanics in the game of how kind of like floaty you are when you're peeking corners or moving around are all going to be exaggerated as well. All right, so now that we have all of that ready to rumble, we can kind of talk about going into a raid. We're going to circle back to our scav in a minute here, but when you click Escape from Tarkov, you can click your PMC or scav. Let's click PMC. We can go, now we get to pick what map we want to go to. A lot of these are locked. You'll see Streets of Tarkov, Suburbs, and some of these are locked. They're not available yet. But we have Labs, Interchange, Customs, Woods, Factory, Reserve, Lighthouse, and Shoreline. You pick a map that you want to go to. There's going to be 2 times. There's normally a day and night, but they basically go, they move at the same speed. So sometimes you'll have one at like dawn and one at dusk, but there's 2 different times. You pick the daytime one is what most people go to, and you can go offline. If I go offline at this point, that means that I'm not going to run into any players. I'm not going to run into any and figure things out if I want to. This is an amazing way to learn the maps, to learn the spawns. This is great. You can also enable the PvE, so you can turn on the AI in the game. So now scavs and stuff are going to spawn, but this is an offline raid, which means no progression is going to save. If you get a bunch of loot, if you earn a bunch of XP and you extract from that raid, when you get back to your character, all that loot is going to be gone, all that XP is going to be gone. This is purely for practice. There is absolutely no progression happening here. And you can tinker with it. You can turn on the scav bosses, you can turn them off, you can turn the difficulty of the scavs up or down, you can turn the amount of scavs up or down, you can make yourself tagged and cursed, which means all the AI always know where they are and they're chasing you down, and you can even turn on the scav war, which means the scavs are going to fight each other. You can create some pretty cool experiences in offline mode that simulate you hearing gunshots and chasing them down. All for practice. You're not going to progress at all. Don't use this as a crutch. This is an amazing, amazing way to learn the game, to learn the extracts, to learn the maps, and those are some really important things. But we don't want to go offline. We'll click next again, and we'll come here to the insurance section. So just like you can repair with a few different people, you can also insure your gear with a few different people. We can switch the camera back here and see that anything with the shield on it, I've already insured. So we can scroll down and go to my tactical rig, click that. It costs 15,600 rubles to insure. The way insurance works in Escape from Tarkov is if you die, any gear that you have insured that somebody doesn't take out of that raid, you get back. So a player